on Trump's selection of Kash Patel to be the next FBI director. Senator Dick Durbin said, quote, "Kash Patel is an unqualified loyalist and should be rejected by the Senate. He should be rejected." Dick Durbin doesn't need a confirmation hearing to know he's seen enough. That's because we're talking about a conspiracy theorist, a guy whose primary goal is to go after Donald Trump's perceived enemies. And a guy who was so troublesome, Bill Barr and Gina Haspel had enough sense not to want him near their agencies during the first Trump term. Not sure what there's left to get to the bottom of, but I'm all ears. Joining me now is Democratic Senator Alex Padilla of California. He's a member of the Senate Judiciary Committee. It's great to see you, Senator.
Yes.
Lots of news this weekend and lots of important confirmation hearings your committee is going to be overseeing. So let me just ask you first about Kash Patel. I just read what Dick Durbin said. And you said yesterday that the nomination raises questions you'll raise during his confirmation hearing. So I guess my question is, what more do you need to know? And are you kind of reserving judgment on whether you're going to support Kash Patel or not?
Oh, no. Trust me. I mean, the fact that he's a conspiracy theorist is just the beginning of this process. There's still time for Donald Trump or the team around him to come to true senses, just as they did with Matt Gaetz. Right? This is an equally offensive nomination. But if they insist on going forward, then we're going to insist on the background checks. We're going to insist on a very thorough and firm confirmation hearing. I know how I'm going to vote for someone who believes in conspiracy theories, denies the results of the 2020 election, and then says I'm going to run the FBI by shutting down FBI headquarters. Are you kidding me? So that's just for starters. What should not be lost in this conversation, Jen, is the role and test for Senate Republicans. How are they going to choose to handle these extremist nominations? Are they going to be loyal to their oath of office, loyal to the Constitution of the United States, or loyal to Donald Trump? And every time he says kneel, they say how fast. That's the question.
Sounds like you're a no, a definitive no for Kash Patel we can put you down for. Do you think, we were just talking about this, do you think there are Republicans on the committee who would join you and other Democrats in requiring FBI background checks in order to move forward with these nominations?
Look, I would like to think so. From our conversations, behind closed doors, those that want to respect the process. Some that I've seen a lot on national news of late, Senator Mike Rounds. All right, there's a lot that he and I may not agree on in terms of policy, but the way he's approached the process of all this, I think is a little bit encouraging. He's not on the committee, however. And so it'll be a test for the members of the Judiciary Committee, whether it's anybody appointed to the FBI, whether it's the Attorney General to oversee the Department of Justice, or any other of the positions within our jurisdiction. And I should point out, Jen, the fact that these stories are coming out after Donald Trump has announced nominees, right, for a transition team to refuse to allow for FBI background checks, as has been the norm. They're there for a reason. Tells you a lot about what kind of background they are doing or not doing. Whether it's Matt Gaetz and what we came to learn since, what we've learned from the Secretary of Defense nominee, Hexeth, what we're going to learn about Kash Patel or anybody else. That underscores the reason and the need for true professional FBI background checks to inform both Republicans and Democrats through this process.
There's a purpose for them and why Democrats and Republicans have used them for decades. Pam Bondi, you said, I want to get this, you said you recently suggested that Matt Gaetz' pick was an attempt to make Pam Bondi look normal, which is a very funny way of phrasing it. You pointed to her refusal to accept the results of the 2020 election. This is another important nomination that's going through your committee. Have you made a decision about where you stand on the Bondi nomination?
Look, I maybe not a final, but I do begin skeptical because of what I pointed out when she was announced. For someone who denies the results of the 2020 election, someone who believed and touted that there was massive amounts of voter fraud throughout the country. You'll recall I was serving as California Secretary of State at the time and challenged, Team Trump to bring forward any evidence they had of that. Years and years later, not a single shred of evidence of massive voter fraud in America. And the fact that she served as one of Trump's personal attorneys, her role in the first impeachment trial, does beg the question, is she going in to try to do the job of Attorney General of the United States, independent of the political leanings of the White House, or is she going in to do Trump's bidding? The American people deserve to know.
Lots of questions I bet you will have during that hearing. I have to ask you about another. I started off the show talking about this, another big story today, and that's, of course, President Biden pardoning his son. And former Attorney General Eric Holder posted this on X. No U.S. attorney would have charged this case given the underlying facts. After a 5-year investigation, the facts it discovered only made that clear. Had his name been Joe Smith, the resolution would have been fundamentally and more fairly a declination. Pardon warranted. What do you think?
Yeah, look, I heard the announcement, too. A little surprised, to be honest, because of, President Biden telling us for months and months and months that he wouldn't pardon his son. Not sure I would have made the decision that he announced, but I do want to make sure that it's not taking our eyes off the ball. The reason we're talking about pardons here is because what we can expect in a second Trump administration, he's already signaled it.
January 6th, that was his response.
Right. The J6 prisoners in his mind, the people who went through the judicial system and were found guilty of the many, many crimes committed at our nation's capital. Jen, talk about breaking away from norms. The peaceful transfer of power was interrupted for the first time in our nation's history. That's why he's breaking away from so many norms, whether it's FBI background checks for cabinet appointments, his consideration or flirtation with recess appointments. We have to restore norms that are put in place to protect the interest of our country, to protect our democracy.
Senator Padilla, thank you so much for walking over from the Senate tonight.
It's called that, but we made it.
You have such important nominations before your committee. I hope you'll come back and talk to us about them again.
Look forward to
really
it.
Appreciate it. And coming up, some Republican senators are making it seem like Kash Patel is going to sail through his confirmation process. But I've worked in politics long enough to know what senators say publicly isn't always the full story. Lots of important conversations behind the scenes. Thankfully, I have 2 political insiders standing by.